I will never forget the sound, that sickening crack of bone snapping right outside my front steps. 1 second a young delivery driver was walking up with a couple of packages. The next he was on the ground, his arm twisted at an angle no arm should ever bend. And there she was, Karen Miller, president of our Homeowners Association, standing smug with her arms folded like she had just taught him a lesson. She smirked and muttered, "That'll teach him not to walk on my path." In that moment, rage flooded through me like fire in my veins. Who does that? Who looks at a kid screaming in pain and rolls their eyes like it's nothing? I rushed down to his side, my knees hitting the steps, my hands shaking as I tried to comfort him. "Don't move. Kid, just breathe." "Stay still," I whispered. But his face was pale, drenched in sweat, his voice breaking as he begged, "It's broken. Oh my God, it's broken." And Karen, she scoffed, called him overdramatic like his agony was a soap opera she was bored of watching. That was when I knew this wasn't an accident. This was assault. My blood boiled, my fists clenched, and when I looked up at her, I asked the question that was burning through me. "Did you trip him?" She didn't even flinch. She just tossed her chin high and said, "He shouldn't have been here in the first place. Rules are rules." I dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The sirens arrived quickly, flashing blue and red lights reflecting off every neighbor's window. Paramedics bent over the boy, whispering the words, "compound fracture," and carried him away on a stretcher while his cries echoed down the street. Karen waved her hand like she was swatting at a fly and muttered, "You'll see. Nothing will stick. The Homeowners Association protects me." That word "protect" lodged in my chest like a shard of glass. Protect her from what? Accountability, justice. The officer who took statements asked me if I actually saw her trip him. I said yes. She stuck out her foot clear as day. But before I could explain, Karen jumped in with her best Oscar-worthy performance tears at the corners of her eyes, claiming I'd been harassing her for months. She spun herself into the victim with such conviction that if you didn't know the truth, you might almost believe her. Neighbors standing nearby whispered, glancing at me with suspicion. Some even nodded along. Me, the harasser. Her, the fragile victim. I couldn't breathe. The days that followed were an exhausting blur. Paperwork, phone calls, HOA meetings that turned into battlegrounds. Karen strutted around like nothing happened, telling anyone who would listen that the driver had simply fallen on his own. The lies spread fast. And when Alex's parents showed up at my door one night, their faces red from crying, the weight of this injustice pressed down even harder. His mother whispered through tears, "He was supposed to start college in the fall. Now the doctors don't even know if he'll ever have full use of his arm again." That sentence sat on my chest like a boulder. She hadn't just stolen his health, she had stolen his future. And still, Karen paraded through the neighborhood as if untouchable. The humiliation, the whispers, the doubt, I carried it all like poison in my throat. At night I'd sit on my porch and stare at the very steps where it happened, hearing the echo of that crack, seeing Karen's smug little smirk replay in my mind. The thought that maybe no one would believe me gnawed at me. Maybe she really would get away with it. Maybe I was foolish to think I could fight someone like her. There were nights I wanted to give up, nights I told myself, "You don't have proof. Stop before you destroy yourself." And I almost believed it. Then came the knock at my door. Mr. Alvarez, my quiet neighbor, stood there shifting nervously, his eyes darting over his shoulder like he was afraid she'd appear out of thin air. He whispered, "I don't want trouble, but I just installed a new security camera facing your steps. It caught everything." He handed me a small USB drive, his voice trembling. I couldn't live with myself if I stayed silent. I swear my knees almost gave out right there. Proof. Real proof. The weight I had been carrying cracked open, replaced by a surge of determination. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining. She did it. And now I could prove it. The day of the trial felt like walking into a storm. Karen swept into the courtroom wearing a crisp white blazer like she was some kind of suburban queen. She even winked at the judge as if this was all just a show she was guaranteed to win. The delivery driver sat at the plaintiff's table, his arm still in a cast, his face pale from pain. His parents clutched each other, grief carved into their faces. And me. My palms sweated. My throat was dry, but I was ready. When the defense tried to paint Karen as a misunderstood rule enforcer, something inside me snapped. My voice rang out. She tripped him, and I can prove it. The room went silent as the footage flickered onto the screen. Grainy, black and white, but crystal clear in what mattered. Karen standing at the steps, Alex approaching with packages, her foot darting out his body, crashing down his arm, twisting in ways no arm should. And then her smug little smirk. Gasps filled the courtroom, the judge's face hardened like stone. Karen's lawyer stammered something about misinterpretation, but the judge barked, "Silence!" Karen's mask cracked. She leapt from her seat, shouting, "He shouldn't have been there. It was my property, my rules." Her voice rang wild, desperate, exposing her true self to everyone watching. The jury's faces said it all: disbelief, disgust, anger. The gavel slammed down like thunder. Guilty of assault, sentencing to follow. And just like that, the untouchable HOA queen collapsed into her chair, her face pale, gasping like a fish out of water. Her punishment wasn't just a fine or losing her HOA title. No, the judge handed her something far more poetic: probation and community service. And the place she was ordered to serve, the very hospital where Alex was recovering, where he was relearning how to use his arm. Every single day she had to walk past the wing where he fought to rebuild his future. She had to see the consequences of her cruelty carved into his every wince, every exercise, every grimace of pain. She had to witness the damage she caused. That was her sentence. That was her cage. And yet, even with justice served, the neighborhood didn't return to normal. Some people muttered about overreaction. Others avoided eye contact as if speaking to me might drag them into the fire. The air hung heavy with invisible scars. Because justice doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't erase the sound of a bone breaking or the memory of a smug smile while someone screamed in agony. It doesn't erase the nights I still sit outside Cicadas quiet, replaying that moment over and over again in my mind. Sometimes I wonder how many times has she done something like this before and gotten away with it. How many people stayed silent because they thought no one would believe them? Not this time. This time the truth shattered her facade. This time her lies crumbled under the weight of reality caught on camera. Justice was served, yes, but scars remain, and that truth, it burned her worse than any fine ever could. Never underestimate how far arrogance can fall when the truth finally drags it into the light.